Rock and roll.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's lovely to have you on this session this afternoon, creating authentic assessment with online forms. And it's my pleasure to welcome Donna Shah, who will be speaking to us on this topic. Donna's Twitter handle is just down at the bottom there. Please do use that if you have any questions beyond this session. Yeah, so this session is one that will unpack a really practical tool. Microsoft Forms really great for gathering information, data, for project-based learning, all sorts of things. And it's good to have Donna who's an edtech involved teacher. She's passionate about using technology in the classroom, and so I'm going to hand over to her now for her session. So thank you, Donna, and over to you.
Thank you very much. So yes, I am Donna Shah. I am an assistant digital learning advisor for Cognita, and that's a role that I've been in for the last 6 months. So right as soon as I started, we came straight into this new way of learning that we've had to work our way around. So I've been involved with EdTech for, I'd say, the last 8 years or so, but 20 plus within the education sector. And I am passionate about what I do with our EdTech, so please bear with me and join me on our journey as we go along with online forms. So the first thing we want to think about is actually, why do we use assessment in the classroom? And this is any sort of assessment, not just using technology. And as you can see, some of the keywords that are popping up there, we've got e-assessment, we've got summative, we've got feedback. There's a whole range, and it would be preaching to an audience to tell you all the different ways that you can use for assessment. But some of the things that we can do with assessment and how we use that is that we might want to think about some questioning, reflection. Obviously, retrieval practice is high up there in the list these days, and peer instruction is another way that we can use to do assessing. And of course, one of the key ways that we're going to be thinking about today is actually that retrieval practice. And this is where forms comes into its own, because you can do quite quickly some simple polls right here within Microsoft Teams. You can do some opinion polling. You can do all sorts of different things. And on this next slide, we'll just have a run through of how we can use forms before we delve right into the depth of it, of how we can use it in the classroom. So this is just some of the ways that we can use forms in education. Of course, we can create surveys, quizzes and polls, and we're all familiar with doing this in a variety of ways. It's a great way with Microsoft Forms to share quizzes with your students, and these quizzes are actually self-marking as well, so it automates the process for you, as well as providing feedback. You can create formative assessments using something called branching, and we will touch on this, but it's a powerful tool in itself that you can use alongside your form. Of course, there are the built-in analytics where you get ready insights into your students' quiz results, drilling down even to the successes in an individual question. You can create assessments as a team, so it's not something that you have to work on your own. You can work with maybe a whole subject area, and you can work together to create a quiz or an assessment. But then ultimately, we want to be able to do something with the data that we gather. And one of the beautiful things about forms is that you can export the data straight into Excel. So then you can start using things like your pivot tables, or for all that additional analysis or grading. And it does actually filter back any grades and marks into your LMS system if you are connected. But when we go to the basics of forms, we're faced with two options. Now, you may be very familiar with the form at the top, but are you aware that there is a quiz option that self-marks? Oops, this quiz mark is auto-marking. It's a way that you can provide instant feedback, and that's feedback either directly within the question, but you also have an option to provide feedback to your students at the end of a quiz. But not only can you do that feedback, there's also the opportunity for differentiation. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that, which we will look into shortly. The first thing that we need to think about when we're looking at doing our forms or creating our quizzes, and in this instance, I'm going to focus primarily on using the quizzing. It's exactly the same format for using a general form, but of course they've got the added options of doing the marking and having points and feedback. You don't have the feedback option within the general form, which is why we're having a look at this more in-depth basis that we can use. So the main question types that I would use in the classroom are obviously multiple choice. We're all familiar with this. We have an option for text inputting. You can rate things, you can rank them, we can have a Likert, and also there's an option to file upload. And we're going to dig into some of these now individually and see how we can use them in particular ways. Very familiar with multiple choice. So I've got a screenshot there of what you would do with your multiple choice, and you will see that there's a space to write the question, various options, and you can have as many options as you want. And one quick tip for all those people who are using paper-based quizzes already, if you have a list of answers, so A, B, C, D, and so on, you can actually copy them all in one go, paste them all into option 1, and it will populate the options for you. So you don't have to start and copy and paste each individual answer. It's automating the process for you already. You might notice as well that by the side of where I've got option 1, I've got a little comment box and a tick. I would tick the answer that is correct. So straight away, we're going into auto marking. The box with the comment is how you can actually then start writing feedback. So for example, I've set option 2 as being the correct answer. So if my student chose option 1, I could put feedback in there that may actually link to websites, because you can put web links within your feedback, and it may even link to external resources. So you've got that first level of support that your students may need. The next thing we're going to think about, and you can see I've given that one a point, is the text answers. Now the text answers, obviously you've got a short answer that you can do where it's just individual words, it might be spellings, and you can add the correct answers that you're looking for. Be mindful though, capital letters and punctuation play a part in your correct answers because it has to be identical to what is written. But in the classroom, this factor means that it's great for using formulae. Are you aware that you can have a math section? If you click on the 3 dots at the end, it gives you the option to turn on the maths keyboard. And this is why it is fantastic for formulae. So you've also got all your mathematical formulae there. You've got symbols, you've got notation. So you can toggle between text and mathematical. Not only that, as well as having the option for a short word answer, you can toggle it to have a long word. So if you want your students to write some independent text, this is not as easy to auto mark, obviously, so you would probably leave this one to mark yourself and review. But there's also the option to add something in the corner. So anywhere where you see the green image that's highlighted by the arrow, you have the option to add an image or a video. Think about the power of that one little add-on. You have a video that your students watch. You can then get them to answer the comprehension question based on the video. Automatically there, you can check their knowledge, you can check their inference, you can go deep into all the different skills that you're looking for, put that into a real life context. So this happens throughout all the question types. If you see that image, it looks like a picture, you could add a video or an image. The ranking type is fantastic for process-driven questions. And the purpose of this is you actually can put things in order of steps. So it could be you're in a computer science lesson and you're thinking about some algorithms or some programming language. You could have your program written in the correct order and you could add multiple steps. There is not restricted to 3. But then when it gets to the student, they're all randomized so that the student has to then drag and drop them into the correct order. Once again, it's auto marking, but once again, we're being able to get that authenticity into our assessment and putting our students into real life situations. It's also marked with points as well, so you can also use those tools. The next question type we're looking at, this is where you can use the Likert scale. And once again, it's got options to personalize it. I will keep saying this, there's options to make it how you need to and to adjust it and edit it. Now I've got 5 choices, all the way down from readily available and sustainable. So I was thinking about how I would use this when I'm considering materials. I'd obviously have more than 2 different materials, but you can think about then what's the most appropriate fabric for use in a project. It might be that you're thinking about science and the properties of materials for insulation. You can edit these and have as many as you need to, all the way up to 20 by 20, I think it is, you can go to now. So that's the Likert scale, and all your students will need to do is click in one option in each row. The final type of question that we're thinking about is very useful when you've been doing some project-based working and you're using different devices, because here you can ask your students to upload content. So thinking about now in these days when we've been doing some online and emergency remote learning, students may have been asked to do something off screen, which is great. Obviously, we don't want students on screen all the time, but then you've not been able to get access to it as the teacher. So what they could do is they can upload a file, whether it is a photograph, a video, it might be an audio piece. Those are dependent on you. And as you can see, you can upload up to 10 different files in an individual question. And the file size could be altered. So you can actually have up to 1 GB for each file that is uploaded. Okay, so that's a very powerful tool straight away. But we also need to think about the different types of images, that are different types of files we can upload. So once again, it's those 3 dots that give us more options, and you can toggle what type you would like. If you don't want your students, for example, to upload video because of the high bandwidth required, just tick the box. Untick the box. So at the moment, I've got nothing selected. So I would tick the file type that I would want to use and allow my students to upload. So you've got all those different availabilities. So those are the different question types that I would use. There are a few other pieces that you can do, but they're the mains one that I would use in the classroom. But I want you to think about how we can use those question types, but also some of the features, including sections and branches. And this is where we can start thinking about individual students. Okay, it's fantastic for differentiation and for the provision of any other resources. So the first thing that we're going to look at is when you're on the question choice, you can see that there is the option to add a section. So in my example, I actually just added sections that were called group 1, 2 or 3. I'm sure you can imagine how this would work in a classroom. You've got 3 different projects going on, 3 different groups, 3 different ability levels. It could be any of those different things. The student will choose which group they're in, but what you need to do is you need to add something called branching, and the second image just shows you how you can add that branching. What that means is when I select, for example, group 1, I can choose which section of questions I would like them to go to. So I chose that group 1 would go to section 2. I labelled it as such when I created my sections for ease of telling. All of those can then have additional resources if necessary. They could have those feedback links. You can divert them to external links. All are possibilities within Microsoft Forms. Of course, one of the key things that we would like to use Forms for is when we're looking at our responses. We want to get to the nitty-gritty of what we can do with our students' responses, how they have spoken to us, what answers they are given. And when we first look at the responses, and this is all online, by the way, so it's accessible anywhere, anytime. This is an example here of where I had my, it was just an EdTech questionnaire that I asked for staff to complete. So at the top there, you can see I've got questions and responses. It gives you an idea of how long the students have spent answering it. You can tell that this one is a closed one because I put a closing date in. You can see straight away that you get visual imagery of your data. So I can tell quite clearly on mine that the majority of answers were from prep schools. My second question was about ratings. I can see quite visually what my average response is. But you can also see that you've got options to view individual results and open in Excel. So let's just have a look at what happens when we view the results. So you can see here that I'm now drilling down to individual students. So I can see the students' individual answers. If I need to put any feedback on those because I chose to give a quiz, I can put feedback in those. I can use the 2 arrows at the top to toggle left and right between my students, or I can use the click down where mine says anonymous. I chose anonymous because it was a staff questionnaire. If you wanted your students, they would have their names written there. So that's just that's a personal choice. But not only can we do that, we also have the option to open in Excel. And when we open in Excel, that's when you can start using all your pivot tables. That's when you can start doing your filtering, your searching. You can add additional tables, add additional columns, and create all the graphs that you need to. But as I said, you're already given the most relevant charts type within your instant results. I didn't do a screenshot, but where it says ideas at the top, just above that arrow, that will actually gather some correlation between key data. So I think for this one, it was saying that there was a correlation between seniors in the senior schools and that they had a very positive overview of their online experience to date. So that's a little look at how we can use the data and how we can drill down with some of the analysis that's built into Microsoft Forms. But how then can we start sharing? Because this is where we also find out how we can use it in the classroom more. So the main sharing options are these. So you can share as a link, and that's a web link that can either be anybody within your organisation, and they would have to sign in, and you can start gathering data on those students, or staff, or parents even, or you can actually create a link that's available to anyone. There is a QR code automatically built in, which is ideal for having maybe if you're going to have success criteria that people can just scan it on a device, a mobile device, a tablet. It could be printed in a newsletter if you're trying to get some feedback from families, student families. You can embed it, so you can embed it within a website. You can embed it within your learning, your virtual learning environment. You can embed it in OneNote. All these different options you can do. Automatically, the links are provided. You can email your format, and this will work with Outlook and will populate for groups, for sections, all the different features that you can use with your email. So once again, we're being able to get that quiz, that questionnaire, gather that data relatively simply and without having to use any paper as well, which is a consideration in this day and age. But that's the basics of how you can do the sharing. There are 2 other ways that would also benefit us in this 21st century learning. You can share it as a template. So think about the power of that. If you have one template and it's shared amongst your colleagues, you could then have your own copy to personalize for your class, and you will also get your own data. But it means that you can work together to create that template, bringing down your workload. You also have the option to collaborate with other people, so you can create a sharing link. So not only can you work together to create the form, but you can, all those people with that collaborate link can also access the data at the end for data analysis. Collaboration forms are ideal for working within teams, because I'm not sure if you're aware, but you actually only have 200 forms that you can create currently within Microsoft. But if you use those collaboration ones within a class team, that's 200 in a team, 200 of your own personal ones. Now, the power of video we already had a little look at earlier, but I'm not sure how many people are aware that you can also use, didn't move, you can also use the link within Microsoft Stream. And the power of this is you could have a video of your own learning. So you maybe have created it using PowerPoint Recorder, it might be a Flipgrid video, or you might even have recorded it directly within Stream. But whichever way you've added it to Microsoft Stream, you can add interactivity within it. Now you can see that this is just a short video that I have. It's only a 6 minutes and 8 seconds long video. Now I have added my form, which is a prepared form in advance. I've added that right at the end. You can add multiple forms within one video. So think about that as creating authentic assessment for your students. Think about maybe those doing courses that are practical. You could have a video first, then some analysis, continue with a little bit more video, some more analysis. But even for our younger students, you could have a story, then some inference questions, a little bit more of the story, then a little bit of recall. Let's have a look and see how it works. So I'm hoping this will now sign me in. Yeah, here it comes. Don't worry, it's not the whole 6 minutes. It's just the very end, so you can see how it comes up in the video. So it will be being silent. It was just a video I made on OneDrive. So you can see over in the right-hand side, I've got the form. I need to click on it. The form is built in, so it actually comes up within the video. The student can then answer the questions within that video. And it's taking its time now to come through. Come on now, don't let me down. There you go. So there's the form. It's only a very simple one. So this is just for some students that are learning how to use OneDrive. Couple of quick questions. They're self-marking, so you can see if I put the incorrect answer, okay, and then submit it at the end, we should get some feedback. So I'm not even sure what I'm ticking right now. I'm just ticking any. So I'm hoping that we get our instant feedback. Here it comes. Oh, view my results, and I can see, there you go. So this is one that I set up and it gave me some feedback with that's personalized for those. So you can see how your students could have that. It will then ask me to continue to the video because then I'll watch the next section of the video and move on. Let me. Now nothing wants to work. Oops. It's going all the way through all my different videos again there. Some other things you can do with Microsoft Forms then. So lots of ways that you can app smash. As I've already mentioned, you can add it to a team. So you can add your form as a tab in Teams. You can add it as a post. You can even create them as a whole with staff members so that you can have them generally within there and share them from your students. You can embed a form in OneNote so that students can fill them in there and then if you're a class notebook user as well. Very similar method between the two. You can either put a direct web link in or you can use the embed. A very underused tool, Sway, Microsoft Sway. You can embed a form within this, and this is a great method using Sway to get newsletters out to families and the wider community, and also get that data from within a form. So those are the few of the ways that you can actually use Microsoft Forms with your students. There are many other ways. Obviously, you can use a QR code, as I've said, pop it inside an exercise book. You can have a QR code on screen that people can scan. You can just put a link anywhere. But those are the ones that are using the Microsoft tools that are most in use on a daily basis. Now, this session obviously was just looking at some of the Microsoft tools. So if you were wanting to get involved in the Microsoft community and learn a little bit more about Microsoft Forms, about Teams, about OneNote, you can scan this code that's on the screen right now or input that redeem code. And what you will get is that's a little feedback questionnaire. It's got 2 questions, that's all. But that code will go towards you in the becoming part of a Microsoft Educator community, and it will go towards becoming a Microsoft Innovative Educator if you're not already part of it. So that is my quick whistle-stop tour of Microsoft Forms. So I'm not sure if we've got any questions out there that people would like.
for that. And I'll just quickly pop up the Q&A, but we have got a couple of questions. So the first question that I'd just like to pick up on is around the stream link.
Yes.
Can you just go through again how we add a form to a stream video, please?
Yep. In that case, what I can do is probably easier if I demonstrate it. So I will just quickly open up Stream. And this is why I had the website open ready. So obviously with Stream, you can have your video already uploaded, or it might be that you need to upload your own video. I'll also turn on my little purple circle because it just makes things easier. So these are my videos. So these are videos that I've uploaded, videos that I've created elsewhere, or I've actually created within Stream. So if I was to go to, say, this one, I will just pause it first of all, because I don't know what's going to, I know we haven't got the sound on anyway, I don't believe. All right, just let me pause it there. So you can see what I have is I can get some interactivity, okay? So over here on this right-hand side, if I go to interactivity, it asks me if I want to add a form. And what I would do is the sharing link from my form, so I'll just go and grab one. Oops. I'll just grab the share link. So this was just my demo form that I was making earlier. I'm now to click happy. So I will just copy that link, and then I just need to paste that link in there. I can actually title it, give it a name. So this was, I'll just call it forms. And then here you can choose whereabouts on your timeline you would like it to be. So you can either use the toggle along to watch where you want it to be at the right place. So you can see your timing down at the bottom, or you can click in and type it. So right now I've moved my cursor to 7:44. It's changing where I want my form to be. At that point, I will just click add to timeline. And now when it gets to that time, if I just go back a little bit, 11:33, so I won't get that far. If I go about there, I should be able to play it through now. And then in roughly 10 seconds, it should come to give us that form. There you go. So it's given us the form right now. We could then enter the form, fill in the data, and then continue onto the video once you've done. So that's how you can add them. So I actually had the form ready made, but you can also add a form and choose one from elsewhere. So you can have multiple forms in one video. So you're not restricted to just one. Hope that makes sense.
Really helpful, Donna, thank you. And I think that actually answers another question that we had around whether we need to film videos record videos in chunks to add the forms at the right place. But obviously you've just shown how you can insert a form into the middle of any length of video there.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think so. There's no restriction on whether it needs to be recorded in chunks. Obviously, if it helps for you to record the video more generally in chunks and then stick it together with something like the Windows 10 video editor, then that might be helpful, but certainly not for forms. We've had another question about
just whilst on that question there though, because of Stream is quite underused, I think the problem is if you do it that way and have the video and insert forms in separate places, you have to have a separate individual form. Whereas if you know you have the small chunks of video, it might be more beneficial if you're doing, say, an assessment. You might want to add the video to the form in that question input. You know, where I said you could have the video inserted at the beginning. So it might be easier to have it that way. I prefer to just use a stream and a form when it's just one single form at the end, because it just makes it a lot easier with regards to that.
Brilliant, thank you. So there's one very quick one which is slightly unrelated, and then we'll pick up the last one. How do you get the purple circle?
Everybody loves my purple circle. It's actually it's a free program called Pen Attention 10, and literally get it installed. You may need to have your admin to install it for you, and then it's a case of you can toggle it on, you can toggle it off. And also you can choose to have a pencil if you wish to have a pencil showing, but mine's purple because purple's my favorite color. You can actually also have any color you want. So you can choose your colour that you like. I choose purple. You could also have it as a rectangle if you like. So you can change the size of it to whatever settings you need it to be. The reason I do this is, oh, it's gone to black now. I want to go back to purple. Is because when I was filming videos, I was using the cursor, and I made my cursor a different color, but it wasn't transferring when I was creating videos for training staff. So that's why this actually works and is showing up visible on my videos. Pen attention 10.
That's really helpful. I'm going to take that one away because we're running quite a lot of webinars at the moment, and I tend to gesture with my mouse, so that's a really helpful one. And I think that's probably for colleagues at home who are recording maybe, well, any kind of PowerPoint video or anything like that, where they're just needing to demonstrate that for their students at home. Then that's great. There was a question about Sway. Obviously, Sway is a whole different animal, a brilliant animal. But could you just give us an introduction as to what Sway is and why we might embed something in it?
Right. Well, if I go to
again, we'll go briefly because
very briefly.
This is a whole different webinar.
Yeah, Sway is pretty much like, I'll just click on this one. It's my Microsoft Educator application. Sway is very much like a website that you can create really simply, and your students create them as well. So you can have students, you can have up to 10 students creating one Sway if you like. So it's ideal for doing project-based recording. So you can embed videos. Obviously, I've got text in there as well, but you can add a form in the bottom. So it might be, oh, well, anyway, it doesn't have to be in the bottom, but it might be a parent questionnaire. It might be a questionnaire that you're asking for your staff so that you've got some updates, you've got some information. And literally, this looks very boring and bland, but if I choose to click on play, it turns it into a website for you. It's like I call it a website. So I've got little videos that's embedded in there, various stuff in there with some pictures. Events that have gone down. So imagine the power of that. You've got information and then you've got your questionnaire down at the bottom. So it could be that it's a questionnaire at the end of a topic. You're doing some little formative assessment there and you want to find out how students have done. But yeah, it's really easy to use. Just add. And then I would go to media and embed. So if I wanted to embed something there, I would go to, I've completely lost now my forms. Go back to forms. So rather than getting the copy link, come on internet, you can work with me. I'm now just going to go to the embed. So I'm going to get the embed tool. I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to pop that inside my Sway. So now when I play, the first thing you should see underneath then is that form that people can then interact with. So it's a really powerful tool for using across, and I think both of them are underused, Sway and forms. I think I need to take this out actually, so I better remember to take that out.
Brilliant, thank you, Donna. And you know, I'd add my endorsement there to Sway as well. It was one of those best kept secrets, I think, for a little while. That it's a brilliant tool. You can't quite define exactly what it is, whether it's a website or a presentation or a blog but it's all of those things, which is fantastic. So,
it is, and the fact that it focuses on the content, so the students aren't faffing around choosing which font to use, what colours to use, because they're already set and designed. You can just click on a couple of links and personalise it at the end. But equally, are you aware that you can take a PowerPoint that's ready made and turn it into an interactive Sway? You don't have to start from fresh all the time.
Yeah, that's a really helpful tool, isn't it? And I think that's one very much worth flagging for folks who've got, you know, kind of loads of decks of slides that they've used year on year, and they maybe want to take them and freshen them up and put them into a very shareable format.
Yeah, because you can just easily share it with that link or even a QR code again. So very shareable.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that with all forms and Sway, it's so easily shared with whoever you want it to be shared with. So that's brilliant. Well, I think we've got to the bottom of our questions, Donna, but just to flag for people online, if you do think of anything, yeah, do drop Donna a line on LinkedIn or Twitter, and contact her with any other questions. But thank you, Donna, for your time. It's brilliant to have you with us.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, we really appreciate that input there, and very, very practical, and it's something I'm sure we can take away and use in what's left of the term and try out, and yeah, let's all try and test it a little bit more. So that's great. Thank you, Donna, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon, everybody. Hopefully it continues to be helpful.
Thank you.